Alrighty. Number 4, we're going to talk about the autonomic nervous system, which includes the somatic nervous system, sympathetic nervous system, and parasympathetic nervous system. To give a very brief overview of what each one is, so your somatic nervous system is any of the receptors, and so that's like, I press on my arm and I can feel something. That's part of my somatic nervous system. And then any like involuntary muscle. So autonomic just means it's something that my body is naturally controlling, not something that I am voluntarily choosing to do. So if I were to like flex my bicep and stuff, that's not autonomic because I'm choosing to do that.
Right.
So something like that would be, say, like your internal anal sphincter. Something that is controlled by your brain just automatically.
Okay.
So that's the somatic.
Or like your eye.
Like it dilating. Dilating or constricting. That would be autonomic.
Okay. Yep, I understand.
Sympathetic, that is our fight or flight. As you remember, we talked a lot about this yesterday.
We did? I don't remember any of that.
You can say we did. And then parasympathetic is your rest and digest.
Okay.
So I'm going to draw, I wish there was a black marker in here. Oh well. So I'm going to draw, okay, right here, there's that, and then we have this, and then we have that, and then that, and then that, and then that, and then we have a fun little hole. And then I will, here's our spinal cord. Great. There's your spinal cord. Super duper anatomically correct. So this is just a vertebra. That's what the red stuff is. That's your spine. One piece, and that's your spinal cord running through it.
Right.
I'm now going to draw several fun structures. We have our fun remember the bubbles?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, bubbles.
The weird chain thing, right?
Yep. So, and then we've got this. And then there. That's that one. And then I'm going to use this red line. And then I will use this purple one to describe this one. Okay. Spinal nerve. Okay, so your somatic nervous system will always travel through a spinal nerve. So those are always something that are going away from, so they don't go to body cavities. So where all of your organs are, they don't go there. So they go to like your arms, your legs, around your ribs, around your back, but all of that stuff. No body cavities. So the blue one is your sensory nervous system. So that's like all of your senses, touch and all that stuff. The red one is the motor system, so that's all of the things that control the involuntary muscles that are not within body cavities. So,
You're gonna have to give me at least 11 examples.
I'm trying to think of one right now. I will get back to you on that.
Okay, fantastic.
Oh wait, no. This is, okay, actually never mind. So this is not just autonomic muscle neurons. These are also neurons, well, also nerves that control like voluntary movement. So this is also the pathway that, like, the nerve that goes to your leg, big thick sciatic nerve, that is also running along in that spinal nerve.
Okay.
And then we have what's called the spinal nerve pathway for the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic has 4 different groups. It has, well, different pathways. So spinal nerve pathway, it has the sympathetic nerve pathway. It has, this is still on the screen? Good. Okay. Sympathetic nerve pathway. It has the super fun word, the splanchnic nerve, and then it has the adrenal medulla nerve pathway. So the spinal nerve one, that one's really easy to understand. That just goes from the spinal cord out of the vertebra, joins up in the spinal nerve, and then just follows along. Great. So that's what controls largely like vasculature, like constriction or dilation, controls like sweat glands, controls goosebumps, that kind of stuff. Great. So that's spinal nerve. Don't need to worry about that. Now we're going to talk about the sympathetic nerve pathway. Sympathetic nerve pathway leaves the spinal cord and goes into this, stops. Oh, I need to draw that different. So I'm going to draw, that's the cell body, and then it synapses with another nerve here in what's called the sympathetic chain ganglia, which is a whole bunch of neurons synapsing together in one area. That little bubble there, that's called the dorsal root ganglion. That's where, what is it called? I know at least sensory nerves, this is where a lot of their cell bodies are located. So they'll send stuff out that way and this way, and then they'll synapse in here and then send stuff up.
Okay.
But we're talking about sympathetic. So it'll synapse here in the sympathetic chain ganglion, and then it will come out and then go to some body cavity. I'm going to draw a diaphragm here. Anatomically correct diaphragm. Diaphragm. Great. So it'll go to some organ above the diaphragm. Potentially, could even be like, say, your heart.
Cool.
So that's your sympathetic nerve pathway. The next one is the splanchnic nerve. Super exciting. So we've got some neuron in here, goes out, goes into the sympathetic chain ganglia, leaves, doesn't synapse, goes below the diaphragm. In reality, the spinal cord the section of the spinal cord that it'd be coming off of is below the diaphragm, but I'm too lazy to draw this again. So it'll go to something, say, what's below, maybe your liver. It'll go to your liver. That's your liver. Pretend that's your liver. So it will go here, synapse. I'm drawing that backwards. Synapse in this area, which is called, so this is SCG, so sympathetic chain ganglia. This is a collateral ganglia. So that's our collateral ganglia, a bunch of neurons synapsing together outside of there. And then it will send something from here, and then it will mess with the organ that it's going on to. So that's your splanchnic pathway. Splanchnic, what a fun word. And then I'm going to draw the kidney, anatomically correct kidney. Actually, that's not too bad. And then we have this fun little area above it. Funny enough, that looks more like a lung than it does the adrenal gland, but that's
Oh well.
adrenal gland. And so this one leaves the spinal cord. Oh, and another thing is any of the stuff that is within the sympathetic nervous system is always leaving from the, like, in the middle and the lateral side of the spinal cord, and it's called the lateral horn. Really interesting. So this is in front, so that's called the anterior horn. That's the posterior horn, and then on the side there's like a little bump, and that's called the lateral horn because it's on the side. So,
Okay.
let me draw.
Is that universal throughout the entire spinal cord?
No. There are some parts that don't have it.
Okay.
Oh, green. Okay, so here's our adrenal medulla nerve. Goes out, goes in, ignores everything, goes down, goes to a collateral ganglia, ignores everything, and then synapses directly onto the adrenal medulla. Good?
Makes sense.
Great.
I think. It just. Okay. Yes.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to erase this all.
Okay.
So your sympathetic nervous system and then the parasympathetic nervous system will always go to three things. Oh, I didn't talk about the origin of the parasympathetic. I will talk about that very, very briefly. So the sympathetic nervous system arises from an area of your body, so T1 to, it's like L2, so it's also, could potentially be called, really we just call it the sympathetic nervous system, but it's from the spinal cord within those regions. T1 to L2. Your parasympathetic nervous system arrives from cranial nerve number 10, so that's your vagus nerve, and then kind of just runs down and then all over the place, and then also comes from your sacral region. So if you look back here, you've got your sacrum right here, you've got a bunch of nerves that come out over there, and so part of those nerves coming there also do some body cavity stuff and are part of the parasympathetic, but the cranial nerve, so the vagus nerve, does like 80-85% of all of that. So that's the one that we really care about.
Makes sense.
So that's coming from your head and go everywhere.
Right.
Okay.
Well, not everywhere. Just.
Well, body cavities.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
All right. Ready for the, what was it? Green on top?
Yeah. No. Green on bottom.
Green on bottom, blue on top.
Green on bottom, blue on top.
Okay. Slide to. And then also, just for the sake of it, sorry, I added something to slide 2.
Oh no.
This is the one that
I'll
goes
never
straight.
be able to understand now.
This is the one that goes straight to the kidney.
Okay.
Okay, all of those are in frame. Perfect. Okay, so let's draw. Oh, okay. So everything in blue is not parasympathetic, is sympathetic nervous system. And then this is our parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, and then I will draw these. Okay, so these ones, this is our acetylcholine, and acetylcholine. This is our norepinephrine. This one is acetylcholine. This one is acetylcholine. And this one is acetylcholine. Okay. And then the different kinds of receptors. That's N2, 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 and then here it's, I don't actually know the receptor on that because we haven't talked about kidneys a ton, but I just know that it's acetylcholine that's released. And then eventually this pushes out epinephrine and norepinephrine because it's your adrenal gland releases adrenaline and noradrenaline, but we're Americans, so we say epinephrine and norepinephrine.
Right.
Okay, and then the target cells, actually let me draw the other receptors here. So we have alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. This is M1, and I don't know what that one is, and this is M1, 2, M3, M4, and M5. And then all of these go to glands, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. So both of those affect stuff. Okay, so the different kinds of receptors that we have. So we have cholinergic and adrenergic. So that's a really fancy way of saying cholinergic are the ones that acetylcholine would bind to, AC. So if AC would bind to it, it's a cholinergic receptor.
AC.
If it's adrenergic, that means norepinephrine or epinephrine would bind to it, because they're also called adrenaline and noradrenaline.
Right.
The interesting thing is, so those are called catecholamines, and so what other catecholamines are dopamine, which is largely used within the brain and central nervous system, or what's called dopa, which is basically dopamine, but it's missing, I think it's a methyl group within the actual structure of the chemical.
So it's still rather similar.
Yeah, super similar. Norepinephrine and epinephrine are also really similar, and they're all super similar to dopamine and dopa, and they all come from the same chemical called tyrosine, which also looks really similar because it's just like single changes to the chemical.
Okay.
So.
That make it different enough to be called something different.
Yep.
All right.
So hence that's your cholinergic and then your adrenergic ones. And then your M receptors are also cholinergic because acetylcholine binds to them. I need to write that. This is sweat glands. Sweat glands. What am I at? Almost 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. Oh, I did explain that stuff first.
Right.
Okay. So what each of these receptors do, this is going to be a lot of really, really less than cool information that you will probably never care about. Welcome to slide 3.
Oh no.
But this one will actually be really quick. Oh boy, why do I even attempt to use this marker? This marker sucks. Okay, so we have M1, M3, M5, M2, M4. We have alpha 1, beta 1, beta 3, alpha 2, and then beta 2. So these do really, really interesting things. So this, I'm just going to draw lines for each one. This increases the amount of cyclic AMP. This one decreases cyclic AMP. This increases cyclic AMP. This one increases what's called IP3. This one decreases cyclic AMP, and then this one increases IP3. So, to help you understand what that actually means, IP3 is, so all of these are metabotropic. So they connect to some kind of G protein that then sends some kind of like cascade of chemicals down within the cell. You knew that. You're brilliant.
I am so smart you cannot even fathom.
It's true. So IP3, what that does is when this is present within the cell, it increases the amount of calcium that's in the cell, and then that ends up causing smooth muscle to contract.
Okay.
So this is really important for like bowel movement, because if we look at this one, this is also known as rest and digest. And this one is fight and flight, fight or flight. So what contraction of smooth muscle would do, so that's from here, because it's an M receptor. Rest and digest, that causes your smooth muscles to contract, push food in through your bowels, release more secretions, do good things.
Okay. Yep.
Great. Cyclic AMP, so CAMP, that, if you have cyclic AMP, that basically just increases a whole bunch of cellular functions. So more proteins being made, more proteins doing stuff, more basically everything.
Everything is happening more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these ones are inhibitory, so they like prevent cells from having cyclic AMP because it decreases it. So that one makes the cells do less stuff. So like this could be, say, like on the heart. If your heart is beating really fast and then I'm decreasing the amount of the CAMP inside my heart cells aren't doing stuff as much, so that means the heart's beating slower. Great.
Okay.
And then increase IP3, smooth muscle contracts. Increase CAMP, cell does more stuff. For example, your heart really likes beta 1. Your heart has a lot of beta 1 receptors, which increase CAMP, so that means the heart beats faster.
Okay.
Which makes sense because beta 1, that's your fight or flight. If you're running from a bear, you want your heart to beat.
Obviously, that's going to be,
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Makes sense?
I think so, yeah.
Perfect. I didn't do that.
It's a shorter board than I thought, and by that I mean
Yeah.
longer board. Okay.
Okay. I think that's it.
Yeah?
The only other thing, I mean, like, sure, I'll talk about it like briefly. So parasympathetic and sympathetic are like opposing forces, but they're always running no matter what. So you can have, this usually will resist this one. Last night we were talking about, like, say a kid has asthma. If a kid has asthma, that means his bronchioles are constricted. Your lungs have a lot of beta 2 receptors. And so if those are really tight, that means I want something that will increase my fight or flight, so sympathetic actions to it, to dilate the bronchioles. So say I would give them maybe some kind of like adrenaline shot or something like that. And so that would mean I have more of this, which means more of my beta 2 is activated, and the lungs really like beta 2, and that would cause the bronchioles to expand.
Right.
So that's all of the receptors, both pathways and what they do, their origins, and then a brief example of like how they oppose each other.
Okay.
So that's it.
Dang.